Rain lashed the glass like it was angry at the world. Kyle Wren didn't flinch. He had one hand clutched around the strap of the satchel, the other wrapped tight around the wrist of a bleeding rebel. The guy groaned, half-conscious, his leg shredded from the shrapnel blast that had knocked them both into the alley. The time shock had already passed, but the world still felt fractured. Wrong angles, slurred motion, like the air itself had a limp. Kyle ducked low behind a dumpster, adrenaline cracking in his chest. "Tell me you've got the spike." Juno's voice crackled in his calm. "Yeah, got it. Got the payload too. His name's Derek. Bleeding like hell." Kale muttered, breath sharp. "Then run. Then run." Kale peeked out. Street was empty. Not quiet. The city was never quiet. But no boots, no drones, no sirens. Just the distant hum of a chronocrat time anchor resetting the quarter. He hauled Derek up. Try not to scream. Derek screamed anyway. Kyle half dragged, half carried him across the slick street, boots splashing through puddles that shimmered with static. The buildings here had been old before the war. Now they were ghosts, hollowed and stinking of mold, scorch marks crawling up their bones like ivy. The safe house wasn't far. 2 blocks. Then 1. Kyle's back itched. He didn't look up. He knew what that itch meant. The sky twisted. A low chime rang out. Clear. Pure. Unnatural. "Oh, hell," Kale hissed. Chronocrat grenade. Not a bomb. Worse. A time fracture. Kale shoved Derek into a doorway and spun just as the grenade blinked, mid-air, its shell folding in on itself with a snap like breaking bone. Light exploded outward. Not white. Not color. Something in between. And then the world buckled. Kale was yanked backward through the folds of memory. Not physically, not entirely, but his mind slid sideways, like oil on water. He was 10 again. Fire ate the walls. His mother screamed from somewhere down the hall. He couldn't move. His legs wouldn't. Kyle blinked. No, not this again. He'd seen it too many times. He hated it. Hated the smell of burning synthetics. Hated the silence that came right after the blast. But this time, something changed. There, across the street, a shape. Human. Standing still. Watching. The man wore a smooth black suit and mirrored lenses. Unmoving. Unblinking. Out of place. And impossible. No one else ever showed up in the memory. Kyle's hands trembled. His breath caught. The man raised a finger. Pointed. Not at Kyle. At the house. Then he was gone. Kyle's heart slammed against his ribs. This isn't just a memory. The fire swelled. Everything cracked. And Kyle landed hard back in the alley, coughing up rainwater. Derek was still beside him, groaning. The fracture had passed. The world had resumed its usual nightmare. Juno's voice cut back in. "Kale, report." Kyle swallowed. "We're good, almost there." "You froze." Juno said. "Did not." "You did. 8 seconds, I clocked it." Kale pulled Derek up again. "I saw something." "Later," Juno snapped. "Get inside." The door to the safe house was a rusted steel plate in a wall that looked like it should have collapsed a decade ago. Kale banged a coded knock. 5 short, 1 long, 2 short. It hissed open, gears grinding. Reed stood in the gloom, all wires and caffeine and wild hair. "Get him on the slab," Reed said. "And you, sit. Don't touch anything. Don't look at anything," Reed said. "Reed, I saw a guy in my fracture." Reed froze. "In your own memory?" Kyle nodded. "Black suit, watching the fire." "That's not..." Reed frowned. "Okay, sit. We're scanning you right now." Reed frowned. Kale dropped into the neural rig chair, its cold frame pressing into his spine. "Juno won't believe me." "No," Reed said. "She'll believe you. She just won't like it." Reed said. The room dimmed. The scanner booted up with a soft whine. Kyle closed his eyes. And there it was again. The man. Still. Watching. Juno paced the narrow command hallway, boots echoing on the steel. Kyle stood in front of her, arms crossed. "You're saying the Chronocrats planted a figure in your trauma?" Kyle nodded. "And that he pointed at the fire?" "Yeah. That's insane." "Is it?" Juno stopped pacing. "Your memory is your memory. That's what we jump from. It's the only thing they can't touch." "Maybe they can." She said nothing for a moment. Then, "You sure you didn't hallucinate? You took a direct hit from a Type C grenade." "I know what I saw. Memories aren't recordings. They're messy, unreliable." "That guy was real, Juno." Juno exhaled slowly. "Even if you're right, and I'm not saying you are, it changes everything." "Yeah," Kale said. "That's what I'm afraid of." Later that night, Kale sat alone in the observation room, staring at the loop of the scan Reed had run. The fire, the house, the man, still there, still pointing. Reed stood in the doorway behind him. "That suit, I've seen it before." Kale turned. "What?" "Back when I cracked the outer layer of Nemos code, there was a pattern, a symbol, looked like a guy in a suit." "You think it's part of the programming?" Reed shrugged. "I think it's a sign, a marker." "Of what?" Reed didn't answer. Kyle turned back to the screen. The fire kept burning. The man never moved. Kyle clenched his fists. If they could plant trauma, they could control everything. The war, the rebels, him. He had to know the truth. And that meant jumping deeper. Further than anyone had before. Into the fracture. Into the lie. Kyle hit the floor hard, teeth rattling. Another jump. Another memory. Another nightmare. But this time, it wasn't his. He rolled to his knees, coughing dust, and looked around. Desert. Heat shimmered across an abandoned village. Low stone huts, cracked wells, sun-blasted walls. Gunfire popped in the distance. Smoke curled lazily into the pale sky. Kyle didn't recognize it. Someone screamed. "Reed, where the hell did you send me?" Kyle barked into the comm, sweat already dripping down his back. No response. The comm crackled, then static. Kyle ducked into an alley between two ruined buildings. The scent of scorched flesh turned his stomach. A boy's body lay twisted nearby. Barely 12. This wasn't right. This wasn't his trauma. He wasn't supposed to be here. Suddenly the static in his comm cleared. "You're off path," Reed said, voice thin and tight. "You slipped out of your loop. How?" "I didn't do anything." "Stay put. We're trying to reroute." Kale drew his sidearm, sleek, black, no frills. His fingers twitched. The air here was thick, like memory had mass. Across the street, a woman with ash in her hair watched him. She blinked and flickered. Her face changed. A man, then a child, then back to a woman. Kyle froze. "Reed, the memories here, they're unstable." "We see it," Reed said. "Hang tight. Pulling you out now." Kyle braced, and the world tore sideways. He landed in another loop. Cold now. Rain again. This time a city, different from before. Towering glass spikes, all twisted angles and humming with blue light. But the man in the suit was there again, standing across the plaza, arms at his sides. Watching, Kale stared. "You seeing this?" "Confirming visual," Reed said. "Yeah, it's him. He's not part of any recorded trauma on file." "Kale," Juno cut in now, her voice low. "We've got a situation. You're being piggybacked." "Meaning?" "Something's using you like a vector, like a delivery system." Kale's stomach dropped. "You think he's riding me?" "Not just riding, redirecting." The man lifted one hand, held up a small silver cube. Kyle knew that shape. Chronocrat anchor. "Shit," he whispered. "He's seeding a fracture." Then the cube blinked and detonated. Everything shattered. Kyle woke gasping, soaked in sweat, chest heaving. Back in the safe house. Reed was at the console, hands flying across keys. Juno stood at Kyle's side, jaw clenched tight. "You were hijacked," she said. "No shit. Not just hijacked. Rerouted. That wasn't your trauma. That was a planted chain." Kyle sat up, throat raw. "They're inserting memory strings into my loop?" Reed nodded. "Looks like synthetic sequences. Not full events. Just enough to trick the pathing." "They're turning me into a Trojan horse," Kyle muttered. "More like a bullet," Reed said, "aimed right at the core of our network." Juno rubbed her eyes. "We need to quarantine him." "The hell you do," Kyle snapped, standing. "You need me. I'm the only one seeing this guy. The only one he's using." "Exactly," Juno said. "That makes you dangerous." "That makes me useful." Reed tapped a few more keys. "He's not wrong. We could trace the seed trail, follow the planted data back to its origin." "Through me," Kyle said. "You want to use me as bait." "You offered." Juno sighed. "One shot, one jump. We follow the thread, see where it leads, but the second it goes sideways—" "You yank me," Kyle finished. Yeah. Hours later, Kale stood in the rig again. The memory spire hummed. Cables clicked into his neural ports. Lights dimmed. Juno watched from the booth. "You sure about this?" Kale grinned. "Define sure." Reed flipped the switch. Everything blinked white. Kale landed in silence. Wide stone chamber. Columns stretched skyward into shadow. Dust motes spun in golden shafts of light. And in the center, the man in the suit. No crowd. No chaos. Just the two of them. Kale stepped forward, gun loose in his hand. "All right, we're here, so talk." The man tilted his head. "I've seen you before," Kyle said. "The fire, the plaza, the rerouted jumps. You're inside my head." "I'm inside everyone's," the man said, voice smooth as glass. "They just don't know it yet." Kyle's skin crawled. "You planted my worst memory." "I crafted it," the man said. "Shaped it. Gave it weight. Trauma is malleable. Yours was particularly useful." Kyle's hands shook. "My mother's death wasn't real." The man smiled. "It was real enough to motivate you." Kyle raised his gun. The man didn't flinch. "Shoot me, and the truth stays buried." "I'll take my chances." Kyle fired. The bullet froze mid-air. Time cracked. The chamber folded inward. Kyle screamed. He woke screaming. Reed was already yelling. "We lost sync. You flatlined for 6 seconds." Juno's face was pale. "He spoke to you, didn't he?" Kyle nodded slowly. "He made the memory. He's been controlling me from the start." Juno stared. Reed whispered, "Then this war's already over." Kale looked at them both. "No," he said. "It just started." Kale couldn't sleep. Not that anyone in the resistance got much rest, but tonight, silence buzzed like static in his skull. That damn voice echoing. "I crafted it." He stood on the balcony outside the safe house, eyes scanning the ruined skyline. The city was a broken thing. Shards of glass and metal stabbed upward like a frozen scream. Somewhere below, sirens pulsed through the dusk like a dying heartbeat. Behind him, the door creaked open. Reed stepped out, holding 2 steaming mugs. "Can't sleep either." Kyle took the mug without a word, sipped, too hot, burned his tongue, didn't care. "You think he was lying?" Reed asked quietly. "No," Kyle said. "That's the problem." They stood there a while, the weight between them heavier than the crumbling concrete. Finally, Kale broke the silence. "Pull up the core loop." Reed blinked. "You sure?" I want to see it. The real one. If there's a real one left. Reed hesitated, then nodded. Meet me downstairs. The loop chamber was cold. Always too cold. Kyle sat in the rig again, neural contacts snapping into place. The memory spire hummed. Lights low and blue. Juno stood behind the glass, arms crossed. You don't have to do this, she said. Kyle just closed his eyes. Yes, I do. Flash. He stood in a kitchen. Sunlight through cracked blinds. The smell of burnt toast and cleaning solvent. His mother stood at the sink, humming. Kyle's heart twisted. This was it. The moment burned into his bones. The knock on the door. 3 quick raps. He turned, heart racing. Sweat prickled his neck. The door creaked open. A man stood there. Not a chronocrat, not a soldier. The man in the suit. Kyle blinked. Wait. His mother didn't move, just kept humming. The man smiled. Welcome home, Kyle. And then everything froze. The room pixelated at the edges. Colors bled out. The hum of memory faded. Kyle staggered back. What the hell? The walls fell away. He stood in a black void, empty, silent. Then the man appeared. Not in memory now, real. Or as real as anything in the fracture space. You weren't supposed to come here, the man said, almost amused. You lied, Kyle hissed. None of it was real. My mother, she didn't die that day. The man shrugged. She died. Just not like that. You needed a clean motivator. Something painful. Personal. Kyle's voice cracked. You used me. I built you. The truth hit Kyle like a gut punch. His whole identity, the rage, the cause, the jumps, the fight. It was all a script. And he'd been following it perfectly. Why me? Kyle whispered. The man took a step forward. Because you fracture cleanly. Your mind splits well across timelines. And because you were always going to make the same choice. To fight us. Even with fake memories. Kyle looked down at his hands. They were shaking. Not from fear, from fury. You built the trauma loop. All of them. The man smiled. Not all. Some pain is pure. Yours just needed a nudge. Kyle lifted his gun. Shoot me, and you'll never know what she really said before she died. Kyle hesitated. Click. Empty. The man laughed softly. You really thought this was your memory? Then the floor dropped out. Kyle plummeted through blackness. No gravity, no light. Just one voice, echoing through his skull. The worst prison is the one you build yourself. Kyle woke in the infirmary, screaming. Juno rushed in, sedative in hand. Reed was behind her, shouting for logs, data streams, memory traces. Get it out of my head, Kyle cried. He's still in there. Reed grabbed his shoulders. Kyle, look at me. Kyle gasped, chest heaving. It's all fake, all of it. He's been guiding every jump, every choice. I'm not who I thought I was. Juno's voice was tight. Then who are you? Kyle looked at her. I'm the key. Reed blinked. What? Kyle sat up. His voice was clear now, cold. I'm how they plan to collapse the resistance. They built me to be the bomb. The room went silent. Then the base alarms screamed to life. Red lights stuttered across the walls. Reed ran to the console. Fracture breach. Someone's forcing an anchor point inside the base. Juno grabbed her weapon. They're coming. Through him. Kyle stood slowly. Let them. Smoke coiled through the corridors of the base. Sirens wailed. The compound shook like it was trying to peel itself apart. Kyle stalked through the chaos, pulse steady, focused. The chronocrats were already inside. They'd tunneled through him, fractured time around his neural signature, and ridden it like a railgun straight to the heart of the resistance. He wasn't just the bomb, He was the doorway. Reed caught up, blood on his sleeve, eyes wild. They're deploying echo units, time-mirrored tacticals. Our defenses are looping. Then we stop looping, Kyle said. We go forward. Juno slammed fresh rounds into her sidearm. You're too calm. Kyle turned to her. Because I just figured it out. Figured what out? Kyle looked down the hall as a shockwave rattled the lights above. My real memory. 17 years ago. It wasn't the kitchen. It was a field hospital. Makeshift, scorched earth outside. His mother was there. Not humming, screaming. Trying to hold his father's guts in with her bare hands. Kyle stood. A child. Hands covered in someone else's blood. A doctor yanked him back. Don't look, kid. Don't remember this part. But he did. And this time, Kyle didn't look away. He saw it. The real fracture. Not some crafted trauma. Raw, unfiltered grief. Real pain. And that made it his. He snapped back into the present. Another explosion rocked the corridor. Kyle looked at Reed. They needed me fractured because they couldn't predict someone whole. But now I remember. I remember everything. That makes me dangerous. Juno narrowed her eyes. You think remembering makes you immune? No, Kyle said. It makes me free. They rounded the next corner, straight into a chronocrat kill squad. Mirror-suited, eyes glowing, time warped around them, a ripple of days and hours in compressed loops. Juno raised her gun. Reed dove for cover. Kyle stepped forward. No more running. He flared the anchor in his mind. Not the fake one, the real one. The loss, the blood, the scream. It grounded him, centered him, and the loop shuddered. The chronocrats flickered. Confusion in their expressions. The time ripples stuttered. Kyle stepped through their field like he was walking through fog. Then he unleashed it. Every jump he'd ever taken. Every trauma. Every constructed reality. He reversed them all, folded them back into himself. He became the fracture, not broken, but whole. The chronocrats collapsed, twitching. Their mirrored timelines shattered like glass. In the aftermath, Reed stared, jaw slack. What the hell did you just do? Kyle exhaled, shaking. I stopped borrowing pain. Juno stepped forward slowly. So what now? Kyle looked at the spire chamber, still glowing with the hum of the breach. I go to him, fracture space. The man in the suit was waiting. He clapped slowly. I underestimated you. Kyle stepped into the void. That was your mistake. The man smirked. You really think this ends with one memory? There's 1,000 timelines, Kyle. I can write a new version of you tomorrow. Kyle walked closer. You think I'm a story you wrote, he said. Then read this. He pulled a memory from his own mind. The hospital, the scream, the loss. But instead of falling into it, he held it, carried it like fire. The void rippled. Kyle slammed the memory down like a hammer. The fracture cracked. The man staggered. What did you... I forgave myself. And with that, the construct collapsed. Hours later. The base was quiet. Kyle stood on the balcony again, watching smoke trail into the sky. The fight wasn't over, but the path was clearer. Reed joined him. You good? Kyle didn't answer right away. Better, he said finally. Juno leaned against the wall nearby. We've lost half our forward cells. We'll rebuild. We will, Kale said. Reed raised a brow. And you? Kale looked at the horizon. They tried to turn me into a weapon. Juno folded her arms. And what are you now? Kyle didn't smile, but his voice was steady. I'm the one who remembers.
Hope you enjoyed our story. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories from the Void.